أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير. صدق الله العظيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Please recite after me الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله. The Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam has stated, Niyatul mu'mini khayru min amalihi, that the intention of a believer is better than his actions. The more righteous intention one makes, the more thawab and reward an individual will gain. Alhamdulillah ta'ala, we are here today to learn about one of the farz of our deens, rukn of our deens, our religion. So alhamdulillah, let's make this intention that whatever we are learning, we learn for the pleasure of Allah ta'ala. And whatever we understand, we learn, we try to act upon it to the best of our abilities, insha'Allah azza wa jal. I also make the intention that I'm delivering this course for the pleasure of Allah ta'ala, insha'Allah azza wa jal. So bihamdillah ta'ala, we're here obviously to learn about our zakat and the importance of it and what are the rules and regulations, who has to give zakat, who do we give zakat towards, what are the shara'it. But first of all, we're going to start off with zakat within the Quran Kareem. Allah ta'ala mentions in the glorious Quran, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Establish prayer and pay the zakat. The ulama mentioned that in the glorious Quran, salah and zakat have come together 30 times. Quran Kareem में 30 मर्तबा नमाज का और zakat का साथ तज़किरा है. So this is the importance of offering or giving your zakat. In another verse, Allah Ta'ala mentions, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. O beloved Prophet ﷺ, realize the poor Jews zakat out of their wealth to purify them and cleanse their within. Yani, command the people to give zakat so it can purify their wealth and so the poor people can gain their benefit. Also as mentioned, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. That and my mercy encompasses everything. Then soon I shall prescribe it for those who fear God and pay zakat. Whoever fears Allah and offers a zakat, he is deserving of the mercy of Allah ta'ala. And he जो कोई अपनी zakat अदा करता है वो अल्लाह की रहमत का हकदार बन जाता है. So he be deserving of the mercy of Allah ta'ala. Now zakat in the best hadith mubarakah. Zakat became first in the second hijri before Ramadan. So second year after migration before Ramadan, the zakat became farz. It's mentioned in the hadith, Bunil Islam wala khams, that the foundation, the base of Islam is upon 5 pillars. The first pillar, shahadati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That testimony that there is none worthy of worship except Allah and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. Wa iqamis salah, establishing your prayer. وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ, giving your zakat. وَحَجِّ الْبَيْتِ, and performing Hajj. وَصَوْمِ Ramadana, and fasting in the month of Ramadan. These are the 5 pillars mentioned in Hadith Mubarakah And of course, out of them, one is also zakat, paying your zakat. Here there's another hadith. The proportion of the hadith is just all over the place. But it starts with An Abu Hurairata. This hadith is narrated by Sayyidina Abu Huraira that Anna Nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِذَا أَدَّيْتَ zakata. When you give your zakat, that was fulfilled, when you paid the zakat, you have fulfilled what is required for you. So when you give your zakat, whatever is required for you, you have fulfilled it. You have completed it. जब आप अपनी zakat की अदायगी करते हैं, तो जो आपके ऊपर लाजिम है आपने वो कर लिया. So this is so important that in the Quran Allah Ta'ala mentions it, in the Hadith Mubarak Allah Ta'ala mentions it, and alhamdulillah we are the fortunate ones that today we've been learning about this. Remember, inshallah, I'll be going very briefly over things. So, but in depth, if you have any questions at the end you want to ask, you're more than welcome to ask. If there are many ulama, Darul Ifta Ahlul Sunnah, there is that point where you can go towards to ask your questions. So if you're unsure about anything or something may not be in my knowledge to answer, inshallah we have the scholars which are present. We can take benefit from the ulama that are present, inshallah. Also there's many more ahadith al-mubarakah regarding zakat. Now the definition of zakat, it means to purify, to grow. Now when you give your zakat, you purify the rest of your wealth. So zakat spiritually is purification for the remainder of wealth, and it causes one wealth to grow. It causes the money that you have to increase. As you know, sadaqah in the hadith mubarakah, sadaqah doesn't decrease wealth, sadaqah only increases your wealth. यानी जो सदका होता है वो आपके माल में कमी नहीं डालता, माल में इजाफा होता है. Your wealth increases. The applied meaning is zakat is to give a specific portion of one's wealth which is made compulsory by Sharia, by the law, to such a poor Muslim by making him the owner of such wealth who is not Hashimi. Hashimi, i.e. meaning from the offspring of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Ja'far, Aqil, Abbas, and Halid ibn Abdul Muttalib. Yani, these are Sayyid, Sadat, and those who link to the tribe of Bani Hashim, inshallah. So these are the people that you do not give your zakat to, as they are not deserving to be given zakat towards. Why? Because zakat is the filth of your wealth. And upon the Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, filth doesn't be applied upon the family of Aka alayhi salatu wasalam. So zakat cannot be given to Sadat. Sadat ke upar zakat nahi hoti. Aap zakat nahi de sakte. You cannot give it to them. So this is a condition on the applied meaning of zakat. Now, what are the zakatable goods? On what things do zakat take upon? Zakat happens upon silver, currency, money, business stock, sa'ima, grazing animals, and ushri land. Now, in this presentation, we'll be focusing upon just the four. Sa'ima, ushri land is not really for our target audience, but just to let you know, sa'ima is basically about goats, camels, cows, etc. If you have this many goats, this many cows, you give this much zakat. But that's not really linked to us as in importance, mostly like Pakistan or farmers. They will be more interested in the sa'ima rulings. And ushri land, about the produce that the land grows. Meaning if it's been grown, and how much would you be giving in terms of zakat of that. This is mostly given in Pakistan, etc. with their big lands. Well, so here we'll be focusing on especially gold, silver, money, and business stock. So in these 4 points, we'll be elaborating in more detail. यानी इस प्रेजेंटेशन में फ़कत हम सोना, चांदी, पैसे और माली तिजारत के बारे में गुफ्तगू करेंगे. जो साइमा है जानवरों के वाले से और जो ज़मीन के वाले से, यानी जो ज़मीन का उगाते हैं चीज़ें, उसके बारे में गुफ्तगू नहीं होगी इस प्रेजेंटेशन में. फ़कत ये चारों की गुफ्तगू होगी. Now, when it comes to gold and silver, in terms of jewelry, so silver and gold can be in any form, such as jewelry, coins, utensil, and showpieces. Now, so whatever the jewelry is, you'll have to, if it reaches the nisab amount, now I'll be saying nisab quite a lot. I'm going to tell you ahead what does nisab mean and what is nisab amount for today. यानी कितना आपके पास होना चाहिए आपको ज़कात लाज़िम हो. Nisab, I'll say that quite a lot. Nisab, nisab, nisab. Nisab means the amount. That if you have this much in your ownership, you have to give zakat. Now, zakat of gold and jewelry owned by a woman is farz on her. So, for example, especially when you get married, you be gifted, the woman be gifted gold. Now, whatever's in her ownership, she'll have to give zakat upon that, whether she's wearing it or not wearing it. Some people have this misconception that the jewelry, that the gold that the woman is wearing, she doesn't have to give zakat upon that. Whatever is locked up, stored in the cupboard, she has to only give zakat upon that. No, whatever the female is wearing, and whatever she's not wearing, in all of that she'll have to give her zakat upon that. So it doesn't mean that, okay, she's wearing this jewelry, okay, she doesn't need to give zakat upon the gold she's wearing. No. So now if the gold and silver is mixed with other metals, so if gold and silver are dominant, they'll be classified as gold and silver. For example, if it's like 75% gold and 25% other materials in the item, you have to put on the full amount, the full weight of that object that you have. But if it's less than, what's it called, 50%, let's say 40% is gold, 40% is silver, you're only given the 40% gold and the 40% silver, you find out the value. But if it's more than 50%, you'll have to, the kull will be counted, the full will be counted in terms of jewelry. Inshallah, we'll be discussing more about jewelry. This is just very brief. Now, it mentions gold up here. The nisab for gold is 7.5 tola, which in this day and age is 87.48 grams. And silver is 52.5 dollars, which is 612.36 grams. We'll be looking at this silver quite a lot in this presentation. Now, currency. So you're going to say nisab, I'm going to speak about nisab quite a bit. So today's nisab equivalent to silver is £367.42. So now if someone has this amount in his ownership, whether that's in gold, silver, money, this equal or more than that, then he's eligible for zakat. Meaning he's eligible to give zakat, he has to give zakat. So that is the nisab, and this nisab amount will fluctuate every day. It will go up and down according to the value of the gram of silver. So now, how did I work the nisab amount out? What do? If you want to simply write it down, you find out the value of 1 gram silver. So you look on the internet, just put value 1 gram silver UK. Today it was 0.6, like 60p basically. 60p was the value of 1 gram of silver. Now with 1 gram of silver, what you will do, you times that 1 gram of silver, so 0.6 times 612.36 grams. So today was 0.6, now it's 0.6. But it could be 0.5, 0.562, it could differ every day, okay? But today was 0.6. So 0.6 was the value of 1 gram of silver, and then you times 0.6 by 612.36 grams, and that will equal your today's rate. And today's rate is the 18th of the 3rd, 2023. This is today's rate. यानी जब आपने निसाब वर्कआउट करना है, कैसे आप वर्कआउट करते हैं कि आप ऑनलाइन पर जाएंगे इंटरनेट पर और 1 ग्राम सिल्वर की क्या प्राइस है. आज तो 60p था, तो 60p आप 0.6 लिखेंगे और उसको टाइम्स करेंगे 612.36 ग्राम से, तो आपका वो जो निसाब अमाउंट आ जाएगा. Yani this, it will fluctuate every single day. It's not going to be the same, but it's not going to be that big of a difference, maybe a couple of pound difference. Unless it really drops down, the value of silver really drops down, then it will make a big difference. So currency, if you have no gold or silver or business stock, only cash, whether in your bank or on you, if it equals to the silver zakat rate, i.e. $52.5, it's very difficult to people to work out the dollars, etc. So, but I will let you know that $1 is 11.66 grams. So if you want to work out how we got to 612.36 grams, I'm just going a bit, I don't want you to go a bit confused. So $1 is 11.66 grams. So $1 is 11.66 grams. So you can do $52.5 times 11.66, you will equal 612.36. That's how we get that one. 612.36, because $1 is 11.66 grams. Now if you have no gold, silver or business stock, Remember, business stock is going to come ahead as well. Discussion upon Mali Tijarat is going to come ahead as well. No gold or silver or business stock, you only have cash. Whether that's physically on you, whether that's in the bank stored, or whether that is saved, but that amount equals to more than the silver rate, which today is £367, then zakat is due on that money. So in majority of the cases, especially the youngsters, they work. They don't really have gold, silver, or even business stock. They're just working on a day-to-day basis. And they're getting the money from their wages. And generally, that's going to be above, if it's above 367.42, then they have to give zakat. Okay? I'll tell you how to work out your zakat as well. These days, because silver is cheaper compared to gold, and one becomes the holder of nisab with less money, so the ulama, the scholars, these days have worked out the nisab of gold according to the silver, not according to the gold. So worked out the zakat according to the silver, not according to the gold. So basically, what does this point mean? Is that whatever benefits the poor will go according to that rate. Because many of us we have to give zakat because the silver rate is low. So a lot of us will be eligible to give our zakat. But let's say, for example, a time comes where silver becomes expensive and gold becomes cheap. Then what happens? We'll go on to the gold rate. Why? Because it will benefit the people more. If you can make zakat necessary in many people so it benefits the poor more, then we'll do that. So whatever benefits the poor in terms of these two, if you go previously over here, so like the gold $7.5, 87.48 grams. Silver $52.5, 612.36 grams. Now this is cheaper than this, of course. Silver is cheaper than gold. So you will be eligible to give your zakat when you're on the silver rate. If it was the gold rate, I think you go to thousands or something, that if you have thousands of money upon you, that's when zakat will be furthest upon you to give. So this is why we go on to the silver rate, not the gold rate. Okay? Now one must give 40th part, 2.5% of the zakatable wealth. Example, 2.5% of £1,000 is £25. Easier, instead of putting 2.5, you just do 1,000 divided by 40. Okay, people get confused. How are we going to work 2.5% out? 2.5% is actually dividing by 40. So if you want to ever work out your zakat, how much you need to give, you add everything all up. Scenarios are going to come ahead. Everything all up, and you divide it by 40. And if you put 1,000 divided by 40, it will give you £25. So on the £25, this is how much you have to pay for zakat. So £1,000 you have in your ownership. If someone's only got £1,000 within, £1,000, and zakat he has passed, is 1,000 more than £367? Yes, he has to give zakat now. He's got 1,000 totally in his ownership. He will give zakat on £1,000. That means he's only giving £25. Literally £25. People literally spend one meal, £25. But you're giving your whole year's zakat, just £25. Business stock. So now the definition of business stock is, for example, I'll explain it through my phone. If I purchase this phone with the intention of selling, okay, I bought it, I've got the intention of selling, and the intention is still continuous until my zakat date comes, then that's business stock. Now, for example, if someone gifted me something, or inherited something, or I owned a property, then I put it up on sale, and then this is not classed as business stock. Only time something is classed as business stock is you purchase the item with the intention of selling, and this intention of selling is still continuous. Now, for example, I bought it with the intention of selling, but then I'm saying I want to do personal use now. I want to use it for myself. And then I say, you know what, I'm going to sell it after. Now I feel like I'm going to sell it now. That's not business stock. Why? Because your intention broke. Okay? Like, for example, you bought a property to sell. You bought a property to sell. Now what happened once you bought the property to sell, you thought, you know what, I might as well just stay in the house now. So you use it for your own personal affairs. Then after you said, you know what, after 2-3 months I want to sell it. that's not business stock. Why? Because your intention broke in between. Also, so if someone gifts you and you say, I want to sell that gift, that's not business stock. If you gain someone's inheritance and you say, do you know what, I want to sell that inheritance, that's not business stock. You have to purchase the item. You purchase the item plus with the intention of selling, and plus that intention is continuous until your zakat date comes. Zakat date will also be explained. Okay? Remember, you have to write notes down. You know, this is good because every slide contains a lot of detail. And then it builds upon one thing upon another, one thing upon another. But inshallah, at the end, when you see the scenarios, it will hopefully, inshallah, it will break it down more easier. So, you purchase the phone, I purchased the phone with the intention of selling. Then that intention is continuous, that equals business stock. Okay? Now, if I bought a property to rent, that's not business stock. Okay? If I bought for own need and residence, that's not business stock. If you say, for example, that I'm buying the house, if there's a profit, I'll sell it. That's not business stock. So all of these things will not be included in your zakat because it's not classed as business stock. Now you bought for the purpose of selling but later changed your intention. All of this is not classed as business stock. Okay? According to in business stock, any questions regarding business stock that you want to ask me?
What if you change your intention simply because you don't want to pay that zakat?
So now some people, they change their intention on purpose, now the niyat is not good. So what they will do, things like this happen, is where, for example, they know that, okay, the house is like £250,000 and you bought it with the intention of selling. Now you will have to give zakat on £250,000. Then you say, do you know what, I'm just going to stay in it so I can miss my zakat. If I miss my zakat, that's bad. That shouldn't be done. Look, Allah Ta'ala gave you that wealth to purchase that house. So if this is your intention, and your intention is very bad, and this shouldn't happen. Okay? So this happens unfortunately.
अगर एक मकान लिया है तो उसको कुछ अरसे के लिए रखने के बाद होगा या वो जैसे ही लिया एक साल के बाद वो नहीं होता है या
ये एक साल का आगे आएगा. The 1 year main question, 1 year confusion is going to come ahead. मिसाल के तौर पर अभी ज़कात की तारीख क्या होती है वो आगे आएगा, यानी किस दिन में आपने ज़कात देना होगा. कि ये फिर जो आप कह रहे हैं कि जो अमूमी तौर पर कि हर पौंड के ऊपर एक साल इंतज़ार करें, ये नामुमकिन सी बात है. ऐसे ज़कात नहीं होती कि मुझे आज 1 पौंड मिल रहा है, कल भी 1 पौंड मिल रहा है, तीसरे दिन 1 पौंड मिल रहा है, चलो एक पौंड, 1 साल ये पौंड गुजरेगा, इस पौंड के ऊपर फिर ज़कात लाजिम होगी. मैं बस थोड़ा सा आपको समझाने के लिए कह रहा हूँ, ऐसे नहीं होता. ये साल का एतबार होता है. जब साल शुरू होता है, साल ख़त्म होता है, हर फर्द के ऊपर वो दिन मुख्तलिफ होते हैं, एक दिन नहीं होता. वो आगे आएगा कि जो आपने अभी कहा है मकान के बारे में, मुझे फिर याद दिलाना जब वो आगे आएगा. So,
sorry, that's one question. So, in a year, if you're a running business like I have, it's not just based on the profit you made. So the profit you made in that year, there will be the same level of zakat on, and the value of the actual stock, there would also be the same level of zakat on. Is that what we're saying?
This is so whatever you earned as profit, whatever you earned as your profit, you're going to obviously, that's your own. If you spend that year in, year out, that's completely fine. Whatever's left on your profit on your day of giving zakat, that will be account. Whatever money you have in your ownership, that will you give zakat upon that. But what you're mentioning about the stock, the zakat, now you have business stock, the zakat will be in accordance with the retail market of the products, and if it's a wholesaler, the wholesale value of it. So if whatever you purchase, there's a retail value of that, then you will give zakat on the retail value of each and every item. If you're a wholesaler, what's the wholesale value of the item, you give zakat upon that. Okay? The goods taken on credit should be deducted from the total, and zakat must be paid on the remaining amount if it still reaches the nisab. So sometimes you bought items upon credit, and whatever you deduct the credit and whatever zakat, whatever money remains, if it's more than the nisab, you give zakat upon that. The nisab is what, £367 today's rate. Now if you have a combination of wealth, now if someone just has gold, nothing else, just has gold, his nisab will be on gold only, because it's just gold by itself. But that's very rare. You'll always have some sort of currency. No one just doesn't have only gold in his possession, he will have some money with it as well. So if someone just only has silver, it'll be silver nisab, which is 367 pound, which is 612.36 grams, which we worked out for today. If someone's got gold and silver, and he's got gold with him, 10 तोला सोना रखा हुआ है, फिर चांदी भी मौजूद है, फिर क्या निसाब होगा? Silver nisab. Okay? When I talk about silver nisab, I mean 367 pound or more. So if he's got gold and silver, they both, let's say together, 10,000 pound. That's more than 367 pound. He will have to give zakat on 10,000 pound. If you've got gold, silver and currency, I think majority of us will be probably in this category. Gold, silver and currency. So you've got gold, silver and money, you silver nisab. So today's rate was 367 pound. Okay? Now let's say altogether that's 15,000 pound with gold, silver and currency equals 15,000 pound. Is that more than the nisab? 367 pound? Yes. You'll have to give zakat upon 15,000 pound, meaning divide 15,000 by 40, whatever it equals, that's how much zakat you will give. If someone's got gold, silver, money plus business stock, you will add all of them together. If that equals more than the silver nisab, you'll have to give the 40th part divided by 40, and that's how much zakat you will give. So this is if you have a combination of wealth. Combination of wealth. This is made quite simple for the brothers and sisters who are watching, that if you have a combination of this type of wealth, this is how much zakat you will be giving, inshallah. Now the conditions for zakat. Baligh. You have to hit puberty. Adult. Be a Muslim, be sane. Now if there's a 6-year-old child and he's a millionaire, he doesn't have to give zakat because he doesn't fit the condition. So he's a 6-year-old child, he's a millionaire, and nowadays people are making their money on social medias and stuff like this, even though if it's from haram means it'll be impermissible. But if, for example, haram money will also be spoken at the end as well. As zakat upon haram money, what is the ruling upon that? So if he's a child and he's a millionaire, there's no zakat upon him, because zakat is only upon a baligh. Jo baligh hai usko par zakat lazim hoti hai, Musliman, being a Muslim as well, and being sane. Okay, but the main conditions we'll speak about today are those which are in green. Sahibi nisab. We've already discussed this already. What is the nisab amount today? 367. This is a nisab amount for today. Now how do we work it out? We find the value of 1 gram of silver, you times that by 612.36 grams, that equals the nisab amount for today. Okay? Malinami is going to be discussed, meaning wealth. Qabza, tamleek, ownership, taking ownership of it. Extra from your hajj, the asliya, extra than your necessities of life, free from debt, and 1 year has to pass. So all of these conditions, which you're seeing in green, will be spoken in detail now. Now what is sahibi nisab? Nisab is the amount which is specified by Sharia, which if a person owns, then zakat becomes first upon him or her. And what is that today? 367 pound. Like I mentioned, every day is going to fluctuate. Every day is going to go up and down. Okay, the nisab amount. To be the owner of nisab, this means that one should own the wealth to the value of nisab, which is $7.5 equivalent to gold. That's if someone only possesses gold. If someone only has gold, doesn't have no silver, no currency, no business stock, then his nisab will be according to the gold. Or $52.5 equivalent to 612.36 grams of silver, or is equivalent in cash money or goods in trade, etc., in excess of one's personal needs. So like I mentioned, it's going to be, on majority, it's going to be $52.5, which is 612.36 gram, which is going to be upon the value of silver. So sahib nisab, sahib means that person that reaches the amount. Okay? Mali nami. Nami literally, mal means wealth, nami means the wealth which grows, has a potential to grow. And you might be thinking, why are we giving zakat upon the money in the bank? That money in the bank has a potential to grow if you trade it. If you put it in business, etc., that has potential to grow. This is why money is classed as wealth that grows. Whether you have that wealth in your ownership, whether that wealth is in the bank, you have to, or whether it's in the savings, you have to give zakat upon that wealth. So that's second condition, money that grows. The third is qabza. This means the money to be in your possession that you may take from it as when you wish to take from it. I.e., it's not given to someone as a deposit or a guarantee. Meaning, you have to own that wealth. Okay? If the wealth is someone else's ownership, or for example, like you've given some money in exchange, like you've rahin. In Islam, there's something called murtahin, rahin, etc. There's a book, the chapter Kitab al-Rahan, okay, where you give something to someone's ownership in exchange for something. For example, if I need some money, I will say that, okay, I'll give you my gold, or I'll give you some money in exchange for some food. Until I obviously don't bring this item back, etc., there'll be certain scenarios like this. Because that money is not in your ownership, it's not the ownership of the person in front of you, there'll be no zakat upon that money. Okay? Extra from the Dawat-e-Islami. So necessities of life. So each and every slide has a lot of information upon it. Each and every slide. So Dawat-e-Islami is necessities of life. Are those things which are usually needed, and without them one will face serious difficulties. So for example, the essential necessity is house to live in. That is a need. Necessary clothes for summer and winter. One vehicle. Food, grains, wheat, rice, blanket, duvet, utensils, mobile phone, laptop for the one who needs it. Not essential is a house or a plot on rent for sale. Clothes beyond necessity. A second vehicle, like musical instruments, sports equipment, all types of jewelry including artificial, diamond and jewels and decoration items. Meaning if someone didn't have, he has one car, if he has two cars, one car is a need, the second is not a need. So that's extra. If someone, for example, is already a house living in, having another house on rent, that's extra, that's not his need. If he didn't have that house on rent, it's not like he's gonna have a serious difficulties because he's already got one house to live in. For example, if someone doesn't decorate his house, nothing's gonna happen to him. It's not gonna affect his day-to-day lifestyle. So these are not essential, these are the essential. Obviously you can increase in terms of every person's need as well, what is essential to an individual. Free from debt. If there's any debt you owe, so you minus that from the total, and if it's so much that when deducted from the total, comes below the nisab rate, so the zakat will no longer remain wajib, necessary upon you. Now you will understand from the next slide. So for example, this one scenario, you have £200 of gold, £1,000 of currency, and £5,000 of business stock. That all equals 6,200. But now you've got £6,000 of debt. So you minus that 6,000, you're only left £200. And we're just assuming that the zakat rate for today is 240. So what's 200 is less than 240, so you pay no zakat. Why? Because your debt is overcoming. Okay, so again I'll explain it. It's £200 of gold, £1,000 of currency, £5,000 business stock, you've got 6,200. Now if you didn't have that debt, you will pay zakat on 6,200, meaning you will do 6,200 divided by 40, whatever equals is the zakat you will give. But now because you've got 6 grand debt, you're going to minus that, and now £200 you got in your ownership, no zakat. You don't pay any zakat. Now this is where, inshallah, Ishtiaq Bai's question will be answered. Very important. Do we give zakat according to the lunar Hijri months, etc.? You give zakat according to the Islamic calendar. So you don't say, for example, my date is, let's just say, 28th of January. We don't fix your zakat according to the solar calendar. We'll give it according to the Hijri months, Hijri calendar. And I'll explain that ahead in more detail when it comes to this point. Now, delaying after the full year passes. So let's just go on to this point just to make every other point a bit easier upon you. Let's just say on the 15th of Sha'ban, someone gave me £500 or I earned £500. Now that's in my ownership. Now I've become Sahib al-Nisab, I've become rich in Islam. I've got £500, I've become rich. Now my zakat date will be the 15th of Sha'ban. So now, if after next 15th of Sha'ban, I think, yeah, I do know what, Ramazan's coming. Ramazan aane wala hai, because after Sha'ban there's Ramadan, isn't it? After the month of Sha'ban there's Ramadan. I said, you know what, Ramadan's coming, you get more reward. So I don't give my zakat on the 15th of Sha'ban, I go give it on the 1st of Ramadan. That's haram. That's sinful. Because you cannot delay your zakat. As soon as a year passes by, you cannot delay your zakat. Now if someone says, Jab chaho main deta hu, mera koi din nahi hai. Like, I give it whenever, I don't need any day. You have to specify a day. There's no choice about it. You have to specify a day कि इस दिन से पहले मैं zakat अदा करूँगा. Before this day, I will give my zakat. Okay, so now if you're delaying your zakat after the year passes by, it's haram. The year will be according to the Hijri calendar, the Islamic calendar. Now advance zakat. If you want to, you will give zakat in advance. Now if you want to, today you can say, you know what, for the next 5 years, I'm going to pay my zakat now. You can't do so, nothing wrong with that. You can always pay your zakat in advance, but you can never delay it. You can pay your zakat in advance. Let's say for example, you pay your zakat, let's say you gave £500 of zakat. So when you went to your date, 15th of Sha'ban, you worked it out, and it was, for example, you only need to give £450. Now that £50 will go into the following year. You can deduct it because you already paid for it. Or let's say for example, another scenario is that you're given £500, let's say in Muharram. You're £500 in Muharram, 15th of Sha'ban came, and you meant to give £550 zakat. You only give £50 because you already paid 500. Okay, so this is how you work it out, how much zakat you're going to give. Now, increase and decrease during the year. This will come on the following slides. Now, this will be in more detail in the next slide, inshallah. Now, if you don't know the dates you became rich in Islam, what are you going to do? So, first of all, obviously you're going to see when your first weight slip, you first had this much money. I know for some it's been very difficult. So, what you'll do, you'll just do ghalabazan, your dominant thinking. That, yeah, was it in Sha'ban, was it in Rabiul Awwal, was it in this month, that month? Now, if you don't know, then you have to specify a date. Now, just to let you know, that zakat and Ramadan actually has no link with each other. That's what the big misunderstanding is, that Ramzan is zakat day, Ramzan is zakat day, Ramzan is zakat day. Does that mean everyone in this room, everyone in the whole world, they became rich in Ramadan? They became ghani in Ramadan? No. Whatever, how much money you had, whatever day it is, if you were more than the nisab on that day, then that is the start of your zakat year. Now that could be 10th of Muharram, 27th of Rajab, 15th of Sha'ban, 12th Rabiul Awwal. Everyone's going to be different. But now if you don't know what date you became rich in Islam, ghani in Islam, where you were eligible to give your zakat, so now what would you do? You just choose a date. So if you want to choose 27th of Ramadan, 15th of Sha'ban, or the 10th of Ramadan, or the 21st of Ramadan, now you have to choose that date and stick with it. That before the 21st of Ramadan, I'm going to pay my zakat. You understand? समझ आई? कि 21 रमज़ान, 27वीं रात की रमज़ान में उससे कबल मैं zakat की अदायगी करूँगा. You cannot say that, well, I don't have no date and I'll give whenever I want. That's not permissible, that is not allowed. Now the business stock we value at the end of the year. So if you got, like, let's just say you got items, you got a shop, you got cars that you sell. Now when would you value them? Let's say my day is 15th of Sha'ban. On the 15th of Sha'ban, I'll value my stock. When my zakat date end, I'll value my stock at that time. How much have I got? If it's according to if you're a wholesaler, wholesaler value. If you're a retailer, the retail value. Okay? Receiving wealth one day before. This is a question, this is what Ishtiyaq Bhai had in his mind. Now let's say on the 14th of Sha'ban, my zakat date is 15th, yes? On the 14th of Sha'ban, someone was so generous, they gave me £10,000 as a gift. Subhanallah. Someone was so generous, they gave me £10,000 as a gift. That is also included in your zakat. that is also included in your zakat. Even if you get it one day before. It doesn't mean, you know what, 14th of Sha'ban, let's miss it out, we include it next year. Even one day before, whatever wealth I get, I have to give zakat on that. It's not a condition that every single £100, £200 you get in different days, that is, you're making zakat 10 times harder than what it is. That what happens in our community, यानी हर पौंड पर, हर 100 पौंड पर, 1000 पौंड पर साल गुजरना चाहिए. The sal, the year means the year you became rich, and the year where you, after the next year you will see the date you became rich, then the next year date you will see, am I rich on that date? Yes or no? Even if the wealth came a day before, even if it came 2 months before. You will understand this in more detail, inshallah. Okay? So the increase and decrease during the year will be explained soon, inshallah. Now 1 year has to pass. Let's just say here, Nisab is 267 for today. We're just going to take 240 for example, okay? Let's just say now Muharram, I got £240. Now my zakat has started now. Let's just fix the date, 15th of Muharram, whatever, 10th of Muharram. We just got Muharram here. Now Safar, my total is 500. Then in Rabiul Awwal, I go to 150. I go below the Nisab. 250 the next month, £100, 700, 900, basically each and every month, increase and decrease. We're not really bothered about increase and decrease as long as we don't go to zero, which I'll explain the next scenario here. So 240 increase to 500 the next month, 150, up and down. Then I go to the next year, Muharram, I've got £1,000 now. I started as 240, now on the next year, Muharram, I've got £1,000, I'll give zakat on £1,000. Now, look at the scenario 2 now. This is different to this scenario. In this scenario, you never went bankrupt. You never had zero. You never had nothing in your wealth. Nothing in his ownership. Let's say, for example, Muharram, I've got 240, my year started. And then in Safar, £500 increased. Then in Rabiul Awwal, what happened was, I became bankrupt, nothing in me at all. What happens now? My previous year, it comes cancels out. So Muharram now cancelled. Then what happens next month? I get £250. My new month is now Rabiul Thani. My new month is this month. Now, because as long as it doesn't go to zero, you keep continuous. You keep going forward to the following year. Okay, but in this scenario, it went to zero. Then the next month, Rabiul Thani, I gained £250. Then it went 100, 700, etc. all the way till the next Rabiul Thani. Not Muharram, next Rabiul Thani was £1,000, I'll give zakat of 1,000. Okay? These are the Islamic months, okay? Not January, February, March, April, May, the Islamic months. Okay? Let's just take, there's another scenario which we could add on here, is that there's £240, up, down, and then what happens, you come to Muharram, you have £200. Now you have £200, even though that's below, you won't give zakat, but that doesn't cancel your year out. So now you'll miss the zakat for the previous year, and you carry on with Muharram the same date the following year. But you don't give zakat. Why? Because you're below the nisab. In this example of the nisab being £240. Now, let's just take some here. Valuable zakatable goods, assets, gold, silver, currency, trade goods, that equals £25,000. And then you got debt, installments for a house, remaining utility bills, due payments, company due wages on employees, unpaid zakat of previous year. That total debt equals £10,000. Now your subtotal is 15,000, and 15,000 divided by 40 is £375. So this is how you can work your zakat out as well. Now also another factor here is that mortgage is going to come as well. I'll explain mortgage in detail. I might as well explain it now. So if someone's got a mortgage, okay, how would you work that out? Is that, let's say for example, someone pays his mortgage £500 monthly. For example, I've got £10,000 in my ownership, and my mortgage is £500 monthly. Yearly, that's £6,000. What I will do, I will minus 6,000 from the 10,000, that equals 4,000, and on 4,000 I give my zakat. And your £4,000. So your monthly mortgage that you pay, the full year you calculate it. How much is the full year? Then whatever total money you have, you minus it from that and give your zakat. Okay? That's on the mortgage. I'm just going to explain the first two, because this is important to us. The rest, in terms of, in this day and age, we don't apply and give to these types of people. So, we normally give to a fakir and a miskin. Fakir and a miskin, these are terms you've heard quite a bit. Fakir and miskin. So the definition of fakir is someone who is not sahib nisab. Someone who is below the nisab. So today's rate, £367. So someone who's below that nisab amount, even though he may have some money, may have £100, may have a bit of silver, and nor does he have extra goods in his possession other than Hajj Asliya that can't take the nisab amount, he's a class as a fakir. Okay? A miskin is someone who has nothing. Someone who has literally nothing, he doesn't even know when his next meal is going to be. That's a miskin. A miskin is a destitute person who doesn't even know when his next meal is going to come. A fakir does know, has an idea when his next meal is going to come, but he's just below the nisab. He does have some wealth, but he's below the nisab. Now for a miskin to beg is halal. So someone who is a complete destitute, he doesn't know when his next meal is coming, he can beg. A fakir is haram for him to beg. A fakir is haram for him to beg. He's not allowed to beg. Okay? Even though he's less than the nisab, he cannot beg for money. Okay? Now, this note, if his possessions reach nisab, he is not eligible to take zakat, but zakat is not wajib on him. So for example, it may be coming ahead. Sharif fakir. If someone's got gold, silver, currency, business stock, plus value of extra possessions. Now we discussed extra possessions. For example, if someone's got, like, let's just say he's got one phone is in need, he's got another phone which is equal to £500-600. Plus that, if that is below the nisab, then he's a sharif fakir. If that's equal to or above the nisab, then he is a ghani. So let's just say, for example, I'll explain in more detail, is that if, for example, someone, he has £100, only £100, but he's got all decorative items in his house. He's got another phone, and that all equals to £600. He cannot take zakat. He's got things which are extra than his needs. Can we explain that once more? If I got £100, but I've got a second car, and a second car is £600. In total, I've got £700. I've got things which are extra than my needs, even though I don't need to give zakat, but I still cannot take zakat. Because zakat doesn't happen upon cars. If it's obviously not for trading. If it's not for trading, then there's no zakat upon it. If it's for trading, then there's zakat upon it. I'm explaining it once more. If someone, he's got £100 in his possession, he's got a £500 car. He doesn't need to give zakat, but he can't take his zakat. He can't take zakat because the extra car is more than the hajat. Okay? I'll explain it once more because sometimes this might get a bit confusing. An individual has £100 in his ownership. He's got two cars. One is his need, the second one is not, and that values to £500. In total, that's £600. Okay? In total. He doesn't need to give zakat. Why? Because he has less than the nisab amount, which was 367, he has £100. But he can't take zakat because he has extra than his needs. And that values to more than the nisab amount. Okay? This is for a sharif fakir, who you're going to give the money to. Okay? Conditions when giving zakat. So you have to have intention to give in the name. You can also give in the name of gift. For example, some people don't want to take zakat. You could say, this is a gift for you. As long as you have the intention of zakat, zakat will happen. But if you say to someone, yeah, I'll give zakat. For example, your brother and sister, etc. If you want to give them zakat, and they'll be like, oh, he's giving me zakat. And they might feel bad. So you could say here, this is a tofa for you, gift for you. Okay? but you yourself will have the intention of zakat, but you won't make it apparent to them. Okay? You have to, at the time of giving, you have to have the intention. So when you're giving to a faqir, you have to have the intention. To give to the one who is able to take zakat, those that have been mentioned aside before. Like the faqir and miskeen. Now, you cannot give to a masjid, madrasa, hospital, graveyard, feeding the poor, water post, sponsoring the alim, operation and medicine. Now you're probably thinking, why is this the case? You have to make the person that you're giving zakat to the owner of that wealth. Now, for example, if I say that, okay, I cook food for 500 people, and I cook the food and I say, you know, all the faqir, masakin come to my house. And I say that this is the intention of zakat. My zakat will not happen. But what I could do, I could get the ration, I could get the chawal, I could get this, I could get that, the masalas and stuff, the basic needs, and make them the ownership. Because the condition of zakat is tamleek, to make the person ownership. Just making silent at home and calling them to eat over and saying my zakat is fulfilled is not valid. You have to make them the ownership of that. Okay? Also, for example, if you say to someone, you know what, let's go to the, he needs to pay for the operation. And he said, chalo majah, I'll pay for it. And you said, you know what, okay, 5 lakh or let's say £5,000 his operation is going to cost. And you pay for his operation yourself. That is not zakat. Zakat will not happen. You have to make him the owner of that and he will pay it. Okay? Like example, let's say someone go pharmacy in Pakistan, you say, you know what, give me any medication, now zakat ki niyat se. Now you go, you purchase that, and you say, you know, here, take your medication. No. You have to make him the owner of that money, he will purchase it, and zakat is done. Okay, so this is a big confusion in our community and such things like this. Like sponsoring a hafiz and a alim, okay? You have to make the ownership to a Sharif Fakir. Who not to give zakat? So who not to give zakat to? As you already know, Sadat, okay, the Sayyid, the family of the Prophet was Ahlul Bayt, but also the offspring of Sayyidina Imam Ja'far, Imam Aqil, Abbas, and Harith, Abdul Muttalib, they cannot give zakat to them as well. A ghani, a rich man's child, as he is classed as rich due to his father. So a rich person, obviously, who is more than £367, which is today's zakat rate, nisab rate, you cannot give to him, nor you can't give to his child. Okay? Why? Because the child is in hukum of his father. If the father's ghani, the child will also be in that same ruling as well. Now this is you. In the green is who you can give to. In the red is who you can't give to. You can't now say, you know what, I've got zakat, must keep in the house. I must give it to my wife. No, you can't give zakat to your wife. Because what will happen, the reason why you can't give to the usul and furu and spouse is because somewhere or another it will come back to you. You know, your zakat is for lillah. It's for Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. It's for the pleasure of Allah azza wa jalla. So you can give to your sister, you can give to your brother, give to uncle and aunt, friend, etc. But you can't give to your mother, grandmother, father, grandfather, daughter, granddaughter, grandson, son, etc. From above, grand, from below, like granddaughter and stuff like this, you cannot give, but the rest you can give, brother, sister, uncle, aunt. Now, frequently asked questions. So, alhamdulillah, we're nearly towards the end, which, alhamdulillah, good timing, alhamdulillah. So, frequently asked questions. Zakat upon haram money. Now, Allah has rahmullah ta'ala mentions, if Fatawa Zawiya Sharif, is that you are giving, so you give 40th part of your wealth as zakat to purify the 39 parts. Okay? If you split your wealth into 40 parts, you're going to give one in the way of Allah. So 2.5% is 1/40th. Okay? Now, you cannot purify all the 39 haram things, okay, by just giving that one part as in zakat. So it would not happen. So there will not be zakat on haram money. Does that mean, oh yeah, we're chilling? No. If that money is from like riba, you stole it from someone, you robbed it, you deceived someone, bribery and stuff, you have to give that money back. You have to give that money back. If you can't find the person, you have to give the money to his burasa, inheritors. If you can't find them, you have to give it to a Sharif Fakir. Okay? A person who's eligible for zakat without the intention of thawab. You can't attain no thawab upon that. But there's no zakat in haram money. Mortgage, I've already explained. With mortgage, is the monthly payment you give. For example, let's explain it once more. Is £500 you give on a monthly basis, and that's £6,000 in the whole year. You have £10,000 full ownership of the money you have in your account. You minus 6,000 from the 10,000 is £4,000. You give zakat only on 4,000. Okay? Giving medicine as zakat, I've already explained that. 1 plus house. So if you have more than one house, like you got house on rent, for example, so you got house on rent. Now whatever the income is, whatever you have, whatever is left over from your yearly rental, and if it's more than the nisab amount, you give zakat on that. Okay, it doesn't mean that, for example, is 500 per calendar month. Okay, per calendar month is the your rent. So now you do 500 and you minus 6,000. No, whatever is left over from the rental property, whether that be, for example, let's say £200-300 left over, that's in your ownership, and you include that with everything. If it's more than the nisab, you give zakat. Okay? Because obviously when you're paying rent in certain houses, you also pay for the bills as well over there, and everything's included, etc. in that. Now, also due bills. I want to mention about due bills. Let's just say my zakat date is the 15th of Sha'ban. And whatever is due before the 15th of Sha'ban, like for example, you got phone bill, electricity bill, gas bill, all these types of bills you have, you can deduct that before the 15th of Sha'ban. Like if I feel like, I want to give my zakat 5 days before. So I want to give it on the 10th of Sha'ban. Okay, so I would think, okay, on the 12th of Sha'ban, for example, my gas bill is coming out, my phone bill is coming out, this bill is coming out. You can deduct all of that because it's before the 15th of Sha'ban, before your zakat date. Okay, you can deduct all of that. So whatever bills you have before your zakat date, you can deduct all of it. Okay? We've already discussed this. Zakat doesn't have to only be given in Ramadan. You have to give it before your date. Okay? We'll explain about zakat date as well in detail. Wearing jewelry, a big misconception. People say there's no zakat in wearing jewelry, meaning the gold and silver that you're wearing. If people say that whatever's gold and silver you're wearing, there's no zakat upon that. Yes, there's zakat upon it. Whether you've got that, whether that money is, whether that gold you're wearing or not wearing, you have to, give zakat on that. Money saved for Hajj or marriage is a big thing as well. Hajj per jana hai, paise bachaye hain, we don't need to give zakat on that. You have to give zakat on it. Any money you have saved for Hajj, any money you have saved for marriage of your daughter, son, etc., that is in your ownership. You have to still give zakat upon that every single year. If it's, of course, more than the nisab amount. Zakat upon household items, there's no zakat upon household items. Okay? Like you've got like extra items at home, like you've got extra sofas, or you've got, for example, an extra car or something, or whatever item you have in the house or for your own need. As long as it's not business stock, okay, you don't need to give zakat on that. Diamonds, there's no zakat upon diamonds. Okay, but if you purchase diamond with the intention of selling, and the intention is continuous, and the intention doesn't break, and the zakat date comes, the value of the diamond, okay, you'll have to give zakat upon that. Giving food, etc. as zakat, I've already explained this. Okay, if you want to have ration, you want to give like chawal and all these basic necessities, you have to make the fakir the ownership. Give it to him, he owns it. You can't just say, okay, in the house, I do a dawat, and I make all the food, call all 500-600 fakirs, and say, you know what, you guys eat, and my zakat is done. No, it's not done like that. You can't just cook food and call the fuqara, the poor people over, and think your zakat is done. You have to give them, make them the ownership. By cooking food, you're not making anyone the ownership. Because for zakat, tamleek is a condition. Ownership is a condition. Saving for children, very important one. We have banks open for children. Now, if that bank, if that money is in your ownership, like for example, you're saying when he becomes 16, he becomes 18, he becomes 21, etc. I'll give him all that money for his uni, for whatever, so he kickstarts his life, etc. If that money is in your ownership, you'll have to give zakat on that. Whether you're saving it for your children, you have to still give zakat on that. But if, for example, you opened a separate account and you said, no, this money, whatever it is, for my child, all the money is my child's. You made your child the owner of that. If he's now baligh, there's no zakat on it. If he hasn't hit puberty, there's no zakat on it. G.
So you got a question online. It says, aside from the rent, what about the value of a second or third property that you have on rent? Do you pay zakat on the value of that property? And what if there is a mortgage on those other properties?
So in the second and third house you have on rent, there will be no zakat on the value of the property. Because the business stock is you purchase something with the intention of selling, and the intention of selling is continuous until your zakat year comes. Okay? In this case, rent, there's no intention of selling in there. So there's no zakat upon rented property. As for obviously the income that's coming out, like I mentioned, okay, whatever is left over from that income money, if it's more than £367, which is today's zakat rate, then you have to give zakat upon that. As for having more than one mortgage, our Darul Ifta of Dawat-e-Islami only permits having one mortgage out of necessity. So we should avoid having more than one mortgage. Okay? We should only have one mortgage because necessity, and our ulama have given permission for this. Now, alhamdulillah, this is towards the end. MashaAllah, we've gone through quite a lot of things, alhamdulillah. Now, any time, you've got time for question and answer, inshallah. Ji.
Can you give me a copy of those relief or the lecture you delivered?
It's sub online, inshallah.
Online?
Online, inshallah. Any questions?
Okay. So do you know if you've given money to someone, so let's say you've got £10,000 in cash, but you've given £2,000 to a friend,
Okay.
would you deduct that away from your zakat? Or?
So, go to a good question, mashallah. So, close, keep it close. Good question. So now, for example, if I've lended or borrowed some money to someone, let's say in your scenario, £2,000, and you hope that money is going to come back. Now, the best thing to do is add that £2,000 in your zakat every single year. Why? Because in actual fact, even though you've given him that money is yours. You're going to get it back. That's in your ownership. Okay? But there's another one in the sense that once you attain 1/5 of it back, you start giving it then. But the issue is it could be 3-4 years gone past. Now what you'll have to do, you have to start going back to the first year and start giving zakat for every single year. So the best and easy way for this to take place is whatever money you've given to someone, you include that as well. That makes it easy. Otherwise, what's going to happen? You're going to make your zakat complicated. Like if someone owes you £1,000, just include that £1,000 in your zakat and give zakat on it every single year. Okay? But if, for example, you want to do what other scenario is, if you get the 1/5 of that back, that's when you actually start giving it. Okay? But then it's just going to get too tricky. The ulama mentioned every single year you include that in your zakat amount. Okay? That's more simple, more easier.
The other person we're giving zakat to, we need to know that person, because the organisation, they take the zakat from us, but we don't really, they're like a middleman. We're not giving the person themselves the ownership.
Good. In zakat, you can make a person your wakil of zakat as well. Okay, you can make him your representative of zakat. Another thing, alhamdulillah, which mashallah Yusuf Bhai got my attention towards, is that now, if you want to see who someone is Sharif Fakir, I'm going to say, pull out your bank statement. Let me see this, let me see that. No, if you've done good tahari, dominant thinking that this guy is a fakir, his situation is such that he's a fakir, you've done proper tahari, you've seen his halat, even though, for example, later on you find out this guy's got £10,000, let's say for example, your zakat will be done. Your zakat will be done. Why? Because you've done tahari. You thought that, no, this situation is like this, his scenario is like this, he's in such a problem, difficulty, okay, zakat happens. But what happens in this day and age, people don't do that. They just give it. Yeah, take it. If you give your zakat without any dominant thinking that, no, is this guy a fakir, this guy a miskin, this guy this, and you say, you know what, here, take it, then your zakat will not happen. Your zakat will not happen. So that is the answer, inshallah, to you. As for what's the representative, like, alhamdulillah, when you give your zakat to Dawat-e-Islami, you make the bills of representative and they fulfill your zakat according to the requirements, alhamdulillah. And remember, each and every penny you give to Dawat-e-Islami, it goes through our ulama, our Mufti-e Ikram. So you should be very safe that whenever you donate towards Dawat-e-Islami, that we have our Mufti-e Ikram on this job. Even for example, do you know when it comes to, I'm just going a bit ahead to Qurbani season. On that day, when it comes to slaughtering our animals, no armed person slaughters it. The Mufti and Ikram go to check each and every animal. The students of Dawat-e-Madina, they be doing the slaughtering on that day. The Alim Course students. So they be going and doing each and every slaughter. This is why those 10, 20 pounds you see on the TV, you rather refrain from that. Just give a bit more and save your Qurbani. This is for the future, inshallah, making your mindset for the future, inshallah.
What about money in your account from loans or where you have remortgaged on a property? Do you have to pay zakat on this?
So mortgage property, I've already explained that, is that if, for example, your monthly mortgage you pay is £500, okay?
So remortgage, if you have remortgage on a property.
Exactly the same as the mortgage ruling.
Mortgage.
So remortgage is exactly the same as the mortgage one, as it is a debt. So £500, let's say monthly is your 500 cost, and it equals a £6,000. You have £10,000 in your ownership. You minus that, you give zakat only on £4,000. So 6,000 is your full year mortgage that you pay. You have £10,000 in your ownership, and then you minus the 6,000 from the 10,000. You only have £4,000 left. So upon £4,000, will just be zakat due upon that.
What about the zakat on shares? Because shares, you don't know what the value is. Could they go up and down?
Issue with shares, our Dalifta says shares are not permissible. So I can't really give a full answer upon shares because our Dalifta claims that it's not allowed to invest in shares. So this share masail, you have to actually go to a verified mufti so he can answer your question in terms of the shares.
Sorry, can I just jump in there? What if the shares were gifted to you as an employee of the company and you didn't purchase them?
It's best doing the shares masail, especially share one. If you go to a verified mufti, they can answer in more detail about this. The shares, because shares is a bit technical. What type of share is it? How do you attain it? What's the condition of that share? And to give just an overview answer upon that is difficult.
The condition is that, you know, if one person stays in the company for more than 5 years, and that whatever 100,000 amount, they remain. Obviously, if you leave before the 5 years, then the shares go back to the owner.
Sorry.
But if you're with the company for more than 5 years, then those shares belong to you. And they might worth £300,000.
Just to expand on my uncle's point there, just to expand on his point, my wife received shares 3 years ago. So the condition was that she stayed with the company for 3 years and she received 60,000 shares, say, that could be worth, that are now, obviously the 3 years has passed in this past week or so, so they could be worth £100,000. So she hasn't invested, she hasn't purchased those shares. They were gifted to her by the company as long as she stayed with them for 3 years. But her intention was to stay with them for a lot longer anyway.
Gee, so in the shares, obviously, you have to see where the shares invested in, what type of company is it dealing with interest or not interest, and stuff like this. So this shares is a wasi, is a vast scenario which is not a one answer, reply, or etc. What you have to do, etc. Every person will have some slight differences, and you need more tahqiq and research in the matter of shares. So inshallah we'll give you a number for our Mufti and Ikram, for our scholars. Inshallah you contact them, discuss what your share is. They will have more knowledge about this, and they can answer whether you give zakat on this, you give zakat on that. Because as there's no zakat, of course, on interest, as riba is haram. There's no zakat upon riba. Okay? So it's haram money. So now if you gain the interest, how much you're going to minus, do you know how much it is, how much percentage is it? All these types of things, it comes into account when it comes to shares.
Premium bonds.
There is upon premium bonds is a, Mufti Ali Asghar, he's got a video clip on this, which it discusses even exactly the same in detail. There are certain scenarios, it's like somewhat which one answer we can give it quickly. But in certain scenarios, you have to see which type of premium bond is it. Again, this where you're getting it from, what's the scenario, etc. So even premium bonds has a lot of detailing to be explained about.
So, brother, for the scenarios. So, if I have 50k in my account after remortgage or taking out a loan, and the 50k is now something I owe to the bank, I don't pay zakat on the 50k.
So
because he didn't understand the previous answer, so that's why he's asking.
About mortgage?
About remortgage, yeah.
So the remortgage masla is exactly the same as the mortgage masla. So again, your monthly payments of that property, if it's £500, your monthly, so I have £10,000 in my ownership. Now every month I pay £500 towards my mortgage. So now 500 times 12, that's £6,000. So I'll minus 6,000 from the 10,000 is £4,000 left. And upon £4,000 I'll give my zakat.
So that 10,000, just to help him, so that 10,000 can be either mortgage or a remortgage, meaning a loan. It's a loan that someone gave you 10,000, you got it in your bank, and then obviously that scenario that it's a £500 monthly payment towards this, and then you minus the 6,000.
The 10,000 in my scenario is that the wealth I have, that's gold, silver, whatever wealth I have in my account, all of that equals to £10,000. So that's in the scenario which I'm discussing, equals to £10,000.
He's not talking about, he said he's not, how's that possible? He says not the monthly I'm talking about, the money I have in my account.
Inshallah, just leave
Inshallah.
Leave a number there.
What he's saying, I've got a cash property, I remortgage it and take £50,000 out against his property. I think that's what he means.
So inshallah, what to do is leave a number there and we'll contact a number inshallah. If you want to put my number there, and if anyone has any private questions. Because remember, you got to understand zakat and etc. especially like this, we've just gone briefly. This is very brief. There's a lot of detail which goes into the zakat. There are books and books and books upon zakat. And this what's being displayed is a very brief overview of zakat. So now, like these types of scenarios, inshallah, about the remortgage and a bit more detail, that requires obviously sitting down and explaining and discussing. So obviously certain answers are very quick, but certain answers will take time and research to deliver. And I'd rather answer a question which is in my knowledge than to estimate a question, which is, it shouldn't be done. Okay, you shouldn't just think, okay, this is the masla and this is the answer, no. So you'd rather be safe than sorry, because this is about zakat, and zakat is the farz of Islam, a rukn of Islam, according to if we apply the conditions.
You know, with some of these mortgages, there's a life cover policy as well, which you have to pay money on. Is there a zakat payable on that?
On the
So if something happens to you, and then
life insurance, it always will take life insurance.
because with mortgages, some of the mortgages, they make you take a life policy, otherwise they won't give you a mortgage. Yeah,
Is that
Yeah.
is that some or all?
majority of them.
Majority.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have no choice, you can't opt out.
Otherwise they won't give you a mortgage.
Okay, so inshallah we'll have a look at that masala as well, that scenario. Any more questions?
Also, there was something on the slide. I think this was a total amount of income was 25,000. You minus 10, and there was a 15,000 pounds left, and the zakat's payable. What there was something about 40. You divided by 40.
So yeah, so 2.5% is divided by 40. So for example, you've got £1,000 that is your wealth you have, and you give zakat upon 1,000. How much zakat will it be? 1,000 divided by 40 equals £25. So 2.5% is actually divided by 40. So people get confused with the 2.5 percentage. That's actually the 40th part. So all you do is divide it by 40. The total money, the wealth, the currency, the gold, the silver, you have the business stock, all of that equals, you divide it by 40, and this is how much zakat you'll give. Okay, whatever the total amount is.
How about land and plots in Pakistan?
So if the land and plot, exactly, if you got it for selling, business stock, etc., and the intention is still continuous, what the value of that land is, you'll have to give zakat upon that. If you have intention of selling. So if you just got intention just to keep it there, etc., just renting, etc., just keeping it there, then there will be no zakat upon that. So that's that with the business stock one. Any other questions?
I will. So you get married, right? When you get married, the intention is, as a couple, whatever you both earn is one income. Okay, whatever you spend is one expenditure. So she brings in, let's just say, 100k of gold. You have, I don't know, 20 grand of silver, let's say, or watches or whatnot. So when you pay your zakat, do you individually pay it or do you combine it?
So whatever you own, that's what you give zakat upon. So now obviously you're saying both husband and wife come together and then they bring their wealth in. But someone has to be the owner of that wealth. Now you can specify, okay, this is how much you own, and you specify this is the amount, and this is how much you pay upon zakat upon this. So you will have to still pay zakat upon that, but you have to specify who owns that wealth. okay, like gold, silver, or whatever items you have, which are zakatable goods. So you'll have to pay zakat on that.
So it can't be owned as what his question I'm assuming is, it can't be owned as a we, as if in him and his wife. It has to be a single person and a single person.
G. But obviously if it's like you're working together and you've got like partnership with someone, obviously that's a different scenario. But as your husband and wife, what happens sometimes is the wife just doesn't pay it and the husband says, you know what, you should tell her that you're paying her zakat. Majority of the time is the husband that pays the zakat of the wife. But if you, for example, you paid the zakat and you tell her after a week, oh, you know what, last week I gave you zakat. She says, I don't know, zakat has not happened. Because she needs to intend. So if, for example, she's got £10,000 of gold, let's say, for example, and you've calculated it all together, yeah, she's got £10,000, I've got £10,000 as well, I'll just pay £20,000 zakat. And you've given your zakat, you've made your intention, because you have to intend to give zakat as well. You've made your intention, your £10,000 is fulfilled. But then she finds out after 2-3 weeks, my zakat's been paid. Zakat has not been paid because she's never intended for it. You have to intend for zakat as well. Intention is very important, and qabza is important as well, giving the zakat or whatever you're going to give as in zakat to the person in front. Any other questions? May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala grant us understanding of the deen. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us aware of the ahkamat. So this PowerPoint is a very brief PowerPoint. You can also find this online as well. Anything you're unsure about, you can access it online as well. But any questions you have, okay, with the detailed scenario, inshallah, we have our Mufti Shamsul Huda Misbahisa. You can also refer your questions to Mufti Shamsul Huda. He is Dewsbury Kanzul Iman Masjid, and he is a verified Mufti to answer all of these questions that you have in detail. You can even get a written verdict from him as well in this scenario. If not, you can also ask our Dawat-e-Ifta. There's a number to contact Dawat-e-Ifta as well, which the brothers, the Mufti and Ikram, or within Pakistan, you can also contact them as well. Make sure these types of masail, you go to a learned Mufti that's able to give you the correct answer. So like you mentioned, like certain questions you ask me, certain questions require a lot of detail. Answer is the detail. It's not a simple one reply answer. So may Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala grant us the ability to understand what has been mentioned. May Allah Azza wa Jalla grant us the ability to give our zakat in the right manner. Inshallah, let's do dua, inshallah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, salatu wassalamu ala khatamin nabiyyin, jazallahu anna Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ma huwa ahlu. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين الله رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث اللهم بلغنا رمضان بصحة وعافية بلغنا رمضان بصحة وعافية بلغنا رمضان بصحة وعافية Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, accept our attendance here today. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, whatever we have learnt, Ya Allah, accept us in your pure court. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant us the ability to learn more about the deen. Ya Allah, if there's been any mistakes in portraying the Messiah, Ya Allah, please forgive them for your sake, for the sake of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, for the sake of our Salat-Ul-Zuhr, forgive us, our parents, and the entire Ummah. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant us all the ability to do our worship in the month of Ramadan with sincerity. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant us the ability to fulfill the haqqooq of our fast. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, accept our fast in the month of Ramadan. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant us the ability to give our zakat in the correct manner. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, those brothers that donate to any Sunni Marakis, bil khusus, Ya Allah, our Faizan-e-Madina, Ya Allah, shower your mercy upon them and their household. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, accept everyone's religious du'as. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, if anyone is ill, Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant them shifaya, kamila, aja, mustamira, daima. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant us all death with iman and afiyah in the city of Medina, burial in Jannatul Baqi, resurrection with Aqari Salat-Ul-Zuhr on the day of judgment. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, grant us all companionship with Aqari Salat-Ul-Zuhr in Jannatul Firdaus. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, when you're face to face with the angel of death, may Allah swear be La ilaha illallah. Jazakallah khairan for coming, mashallah. If you want to give your zakat, inshallah, your brothers here, that you can give your zakat towards, inshallah.
So,
Sorry about that. No, it's fine. And inshallah, just give them by inshallah. So yeah, it's enough.
have we got a Mufti Sajid? Have you Mufti Sajid?
MashaAllah, jazakallah, mashallah.
Westbrook, have you got Mufti Saab's number?
So where they watching this?
ठीक है सर
उसका फेल जो है वो गलत है जो तदरीरी बोलिश करते हैं ना जो शहीद करने के कर्ज है ना उसमें यही मसला होगा जैसे मैंने कहा स्टॉक्स के बारे में जी जी what's he saying?
It's a very grey area.
Get us start with Westmore.
Yes.
Get us start with Westmore, but I'll just give you Saab's number. Have you got Mufti Saab's number?
No, I don't think so.
So get his phone back.
Grey area.
You've got a phone with him,
Ask him to.
Every year.
Still counts.
Where's the snake gone?
Alright, Mufti Saab.
I'll put one over. It's still live.
Oh, wait, what?
It's too live.
1
No, still live.
No, that's not right.
It's still live. Yeah, I'm sending
Okay. No, really.
they're done.
We.